I, 31 male, am married to my wife, Ella, 31. We have 3 children together. Our son is pre-tween, and our daughters are a toddler and 1 year older. A few months ago, we learned Ella's sister had a child and that her child had been removed from the home. Ella was contacted about taking in her nephew, Dex, who's the same age as our son. Despite the shock in our not knowing Dex, we chose to bring him into our home to give him the life Ella and her sister didn't have. I never expected us taking my nephew in to be a problem, but my family was vocal about us not taking in Dex. This is where I should mention I'm Black and my wife is white. Our kids together are dark-skinned like me. Dex is white like my wife. Ella's sister, Dex's mom, was involved in illegal activities, contributing to Dex's removal. My family's acted as though Dex was somehow responsible and doomed, and they told me it was selfish to bring him into a house with my children, who will always get the blame for his actions. I was angry. Dex is young. Our kids love him, and he's already bonded well with them. He's little, but they treat him like a criminal. They refused to include him in the family. They told him he would not be welcome at family events, so I chose to cut my family out of my life. I told them I wouldn't turn my back on a child who has nobody else and has done nothing to deserve abandonment. One of my nephews is a teen who got in touch with me recently and wanted to talk. He said he missed his cousins and me and hated that we didn't see each other. I told him I missed him too. I explained that adult issues were complicated sometimes, and hopefully we could see each other soon. He told me I could see them if I kicked Dex out. We could see each other again, and that Dex is trouble, and he doesn't deserve to tear our family apart. I told him Dex is a child who had nobody else. He told me he was going to be the reason my kids ended up in jail, and maybe even me too. I told him that was ridiculous. He told me I was dumb, and it was embarrassing to watch. He then said that Dex doesn't matter, etc. That's when I snapped on him. I told him I was ashamed of how he was talking about an innocent kid, and I was just as ashamed of the rest of the family who would put so much on a young child. I told him I would not dump Dex for them, which only added to how ashamed I was to have them repeatedly request that. My nephew ended the call, and straight after, I got a message from my sister that I had no right to talk to her child that way. Then the rest of the family joined in, and I can't stop asking myself if it was wrong to say this to my nephew, who is still a kid. I ask myself if ending the call would have been better, because dumping on a kid is perhaps not my finest moment. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, of course. I can't blame your nephew because technically he's a child, but clearly he's getting his information from his mother. If anyone in that family reaches out again, I would firmly but calmly say, Dex is my child. If you can't open your heart to an abandoned little kid, I don't want you in my life. Funny how your family thinks that grown adults calling a little child all kinds of nasty names and criminalizing him for no reason is okay, but you telling a teen that you're ashamed of him is outrageous. Cut them all out of your life for good, and thank you to you and your wife for taking Dex in. You're doing a wonderful thing, and I can only wish all children who lack a loving home with their parents would be as lucky as him to have relatives step in. It sounds like someone put your nephew up to calling you and saying that, trying to guilt you into doing what they wanted. Go full no contact and block the family on everything. They're just going to keep pulling stunts like this. Good Lord, I can't imagine harboring so much hatred for a freaking child. I'm sorry, but a teenager is plenty old enough not to be acting like a judgmental idiot, especially about a child. His family may have brainwashed him, but he's old enough to know better. Maybe a little harsh, but he learned he couldn't push those particular buttons without getting the consequence. So you gave him the chance to back off and stop spouting the family party line, and he doubled down. Good on you for protecting Dex. My 32 female daughter Mia, tween, has a stepsister Jenny, teen, who has cancer. I don't know too much about it, but I know her hair is falling out. Recently, Jenny's mom, Lauren, 38 female, texted me to say that Mia's hair appointment is on Wednesday. I asked her what she meant, and she said that Mia would shave her head to show that she supports Jenny. I told her that Mia wasn't going to shave her head, and that if Jenny needed support that way, then Lauren could do it for her. Lauren said that I was being selfish and not thinking about how cancer affects Jenny. I told her, my daughter has nothing to do with Jenny's cancer, that they aren't even close, and there are other ways of showing support. Mia wasn't even aware that she was getting her hair shaved off, or an appointment was even made. I asked Mia if it would be something she was open to, but it wasn't. Mia's dad, Liam, thinks that this can be a bonding experience for the girls, and I wouldn't want to get in the way of that. So I told them that they didn't even talk about it with Mia and me. I don't think I was wrong in what I did, but my stepmom and dad think I'm not thinking about how Jenny feels. Wait, so they made an appointment for your daughter to have her hair shaved off without consulting her? No, that's not on. It's bad what the stepsister's going through, but you just don't decide to shave off a kid's hair, a tween girl's hair at that. They'd be setting her up for ridicule and bullying. You are not the idiot. Honestly, this sounds more like a power play on the stepmother's part than an actual bonding experience for the girls. I mean, she booked the appointment behind OP's back and only told OP about it once the appointment was made and thought OP couldn't or wouldn't do anything about it and didn't tell Mia about it. And I'm guessing she wasn't going to until she was in the hairdresser chair because why? So if her daughter loses her hair, then Mia must because it's not fair? Because that's what it seems like, to be honest. This began as if Mia was doing it as a charity thing to help, but she had no idea. How dare anyone think they can make anyone shave their head without any prior discussion? OP, this would have been abuse and assault. You and your daughter know nothing about it. They were trying to guilt Mia into it. Mia needs to stay away from them for a while. They may just try to shave it themselves. Protect your kid. You don't think about how Jenny feels. Did they think about how Mia would feel just getting taken to a hairdresser and without consent having her hair shaved? It may seem extreme, but I would call your attorney today because I don't trust your ex and his wife, and I think they may try and force your daughter to shave her head. I hope Jenny's getting real support and not just whatever this is. Both my husband and I work for a dispensary as managers. He's inventory management and I'm kitchen manager. Though up until last month, I was at a different shop. I recently got the transfer approval. In our shop, we only employ 11 people, 3 women including me, 8 men. One of the women is the owner's wife, who handles the finances, and the other woman, Jen, runs the front end. Now, to be blunt here, Jen is a smoke show, drop-dead gorgeous young lady, and to be blunt again, all the men here drool over her, probably my husband included. I mean, even I drool over her. But I don't know how to put it. She runs through the men here. She's already dated or hooked up with 3 of them. And recently her eyes went to my husband. I'm used to this behavior because my husband is also a solid 10 on a bad day. But she knows he's married, so there's definitely a disrespectful aspect of things here. However, she did not know that I was his wife until this morning. So my husband came to me yesterday and was like, listen, Jen has been trying to take breaks with me, and she often gets into my truck without asking whenever she sees me sitting outside, asking that I smoke her up and being flirty, like touching his arms and legs type of crap. So I asked if he wanted me to handle it, and he said, please, but don't be rude about it, because he had already told her several times that he was married, and her only response was, oh, I already know that, and continues on with her BS. Well, I knew his break was at 10, and I made a point to come out a few minutes later. So I walked to the truck, and lo and behold, Jen is in the front seat. I hear my husband say, that's my wife's seat, and she just giggles and says she's keeping it warm. Please note that we're in our 30s, and this girl is 23. So I go up to the window and say, thanks for keeping my seat warm, but I'm here now. She just scowls at me and says, we're kind of talking here. So I go, yes, I can see that. And now I would like to speak to my husband, with a smile on my face. Her face drops, and she gets out quickly. Now the problem is that 3 of the guys were sitting nearby, and they immediately started laughing, which embarrassed her even more. The owner's wife said I should have pulled Jen aside and said something, versus embarrass her in front of everyone. Am I the idiot? Jen and the owner's wife are the only 2 who think so. Edit. This girl has been reported to HR. However, in a blurred line version of events, Jen is the owner's wife's cousin. Therefore, none of the reports are taken seriously, and likely never will be. Not the idiot. Oh, heck no. This coworker is not only flirting with a married man who rebuked her advances, but is continuing to harass him. She rightfully deserved her public embarrassment. If she were a man, she'd have been turfed eons long past for even deigning to flirt with a coworker subtly. Listen, she's an adult. She knows exactly what her behavior means and how it's considered. Unfortunately, she played a stupid game of flirting with a married man and won the prize of being embarrassed in public, which I might add, could have been much worse for her. Your husband pulled her aside when he asked her to stop. Direct confrontation is a perfectly acceptable course of action. That girl is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Maybe being embarrassed will get her to back off the guys. You did nothing wrong. You barely even did anything other than tell her to get out of the truck and that you were his wife. So the owner's wife either got a skewed version of the story or is perfectly fine with cheating, I guess. I, 32 female, used to have a good relationship with my mother-in-law until I became pregnant last year. To preface, my mother-in-law is heavily invested in my partner's life, as they're the firstborn child, grandchild, etc., and can do no wrong in her eyes. We had boundary issues in the past that I would usually shake off because you can't pick your family, you know? But when we announced my pregnancy, it was like a light switch flipped, and she could suddenly see the daughter she never had coming into the world. She became involved in everything, from planning the shower to asking how doctor visits were and trying to dictate how we would spend events. This amplified once my child was born, and my partner and I had asked for a long time to bond with our baby and for me to recover from birth. It was like I had told her she would never see the baby instead of asking for time. Since then, our relationship has been cordial because I no longer trust her to respect the boundaries that I've set. We're now many months in, and she constantly refers to my child as her baby. I let it slide for a long time because I wanted to keep the peace, but after being told that she's telling my child, "We don't want mommy to pick up my baby, do we? My baby doesn't need to go home. My baby misses me and should see me more." Something inside me snapped. I asked her to please refer to my child as her grandbaby, not her baby. She instantly broke down in tears and stated she didn't understand why it was a big deal because she allowed others to refer to her child that way. I reiterated that I was uncomfortable with it and would prefer her not to do it. As a side note, she's at our daycare multiple days a week, so another confrontation will likely happen again. So, am I the idiot for asking this? Not the idiot, but find new childcare ASAP. This is only going to get worse. You know she's teaching that baby to call her mama, right? Also, you have to worry about a potential grandparents' rights custody battle in certain states the longer there's prolonged significant contact if things escalate. I think your core problem isn't with my baby versus my grandbaby. That's just a symptom. Your core problem is that your mother-in-law wants to be in control when an ordinary, reasonable woman would treasure her time with her grandchild while respecting the authority of the parents. She feels she has some control because she's providing your childcare. Unfortunately, she's not going to stop wanting control. So the only way to have her stop pushing for it is to reduce her leverage in your life. Your only option is to reduce or eliminate her access to your child. You're a parent now. It's 100% a good thing to set boundaries when it comes to your child, because she's just that, your child, not your mother-in-law's. What she's doing is not okay, and it's time to exercise your rights as your baby's mother and find a more appropriate care situation without the boundary crossing. This will only worsen as your child ages, so you might as well nip it in the bud now. Update 1. Am I the idiot for asking mother-in-law to refer to my baby as her grandbaby? I picked up my child tonight, and my mother-in-law literally acted as if nothing had happened, but she kept referring to me as mommy and mama to my baby. This is something she never does, and it felt very pointed, like she was trying to make me feel baby for confronting her. Like, am I crazy for thinking that? Out of respect for my partner, I had let him know about the confrontation so he wouldn't be blindsided by her. She's a big fan of multiple messages and calls if she feels ignored. Much to my surprise, he sided with her and informed me that I should learn when to stay quiet and not purposely upset her, because then he'd have to listen to her complain. Now I'm worried she'll keep doing it because he's not going to support me on this issue. You've got a husband problem on top of a mother-in-law problem. She's a boundary stomper, and he's used to allowing it because she makes it a living nightmare when she doesn't get her way. You're really going to need him on your side if you don't want her stomping all over you for the rest of your married life. Have this conversation with him ASAP. I'd be telling my partner that his own lack of boundaries with his mother is his problem, but you're not obligated to be a doormat. I hope you finally realize where you stand now, second place to his mommy. If you don't put your foot down and force your husband to grow a spine and stand up for his family, you and your child, mother-in-law will always have more say in your family than you. Update 2. Am I the idiot for asking mother-in-law to refer to my baby as her grandbaby? My partner and I had a massive blowout over this issue after mother-in-law called him crying. As I mentioned before, I'm usually laid back, but today I had the time to discuss this issue and the general disrespect I feel for mother-in-law. I'm not one to give ultimatums, but I feel like I've been backed into a corner, and my only way out is to fight back. I informed my partner that I'm willing to end our relationship today if they are unwilling to back me against mother-in-law on this issue and any issue that comes after, and that I'll not be the third parent to a child that was literally cut out of my body. We went over nearly every disrespectful thing that his mother-in-law has said to my face and behind my back to help my partner understand why this is such an issue. I also brought up the fact that my partner's own brother was willing to have my back on this issue, but they weren't. I think that was the real kick in the pants that they needed to see, that I was not blowing this issue out of proportion. We've agreed that we will be a united front to mother-in-law, and that any issues will be discussed with her together, because I feel she's turned the situation to make me into the bad guy. Partner said he understood where I was coming from, but this was only after I had a full-blown meltdown, not usually my style, but also very effective. I informed my partner that I would not have this conversation again, and if I felt unsupported, then I would be leaving that day, because I would rather be single and happy instead of being in a relationship with 3 people. Also, my baby will be in daycare no later than her first birthday. This is something my partner and I have agreed on, not only for separation from mother-in-law, but also proper socializing. I am hopeful that this will get better now that we've duked it out, but I am also concurrently getting my ducks in a row just in case. Luckily, our state does not recognize grandparents' rights, other than 2-hour visits every 90 days, to all who mention grandparents' rights. Thank you for all the comments and info. I felt inspired by the support to have this fight. I hate that it was such a big fight, but God, I feel so much better getting it out there.